opportunity to be the next Bill Rasmussen, or whatever subsector. As I listened to the group up here before, a lot of bright lights in the room. And I suspect that, that you'll see some things that a lot of us more traditionalists haven't seen and haven't thought of. But sports is exploding. So that's the first point. Domestically and globally, that's my best shot at that. And I really want you to think about that, because as this thing continues to move, you enjoy great opportunities. Human Dow Jones. Something else I find myself thinking about a lot. I use this in my class, and I talk about all the different, and again, I have to apologize to you. I'm going to come at you as a traditionalist, as a campus guy. I've never not been on campus. That's who I am, that's my prism, that's where I come from. And I would tell you that in my time in athletics administration, it's amazing to me how we've gone from a horizontal business, as I call it, to a vertical business, okay? And I look at I look at our subsector, and I could even make a case for, you know, if you just hang with me, the junior high, the small high school, the large high school, the junior college, the small college, the mid-major, the wannabe major, the major, the professional level, you know, the recreation, and then all into the corporate areas of sport. I mean, the continuum is endless of sport, which represents those big numbers that I was throwing around. And I can tell you that there was a time when, if you did a really good job at the junior high, you got, whether you were coaching or you were administration, this is before Dr. Higgins, before he kind of recreated the whole paradigm for sport and sport administration or sport business, that if you did a really good job at the smaller level, say the junior high, you got invited to the small college or to the small high school. If you did a really good job at the small high school, you got invited to the large high school. And if you did a really good job at the large high school, you got invited to the junior college or small college. And that's how you moved across the continuum of sport, and that's how you grew. I mean, that's just how it worked. And it was clearly what I refer to in my class as a horizontal business. And I would tell you about 2 decades ago, and maybe longer than that, maybe 2.5 decades ago, it's really become a vertical business. I mean, the coach at Moeller High will not become the football coach at Notre Dame again. I mean, Jerry Faust is a great friend. That will not happen again. All of those silos we become are clearly different. They're different philosophically, culturally, financially, and in every way possible. And there's a recognition of that. And there's a risk factor. And so people today, as I look at sport, if you and you guys are in play, it's really important to kind of figure out what silo is the silo that kind of lights you up and get there fast, get there early, and make good silo decisions. Because the game now is vertical. It's within silo. And if you, I call it the human Dow Jones, you watch you look at the transactions within sport, I don't care what medium, NCAA News Online or the USA Today, and we all read the transaction section. And take a look at who's moving where. It's typically, at this point, been a silo-specific transaction. And that's going to become more of that because the risk is too high to kind of go outside of the silo. I have a son, one of Brian's brothers, Mike, who is an associate coach at Ole Miss where he played. And he was at Jacksonville State for 4 years or 5. I guess it was 4. And about every year he'd get really frustrated and he'd call me and he'd say, "Oh, Dad, gosh, I'm making zero money and I'm sleeping in my car and I can't make this thing work and this isn't fun and it's really hard." And he said, "I think I need to go get that junior college job or that great high school job in Florida or someplace." And we'd have the same conversation every year, and I would tell him, "You're in a silo-specific industry. And so you can go get that junior college job or that large high school job, and then you can come back and apply for that Jacksonville State job again and do 4 years over and to try to get back into Division I." Very little applicability outside of the silo. That's kind of what I observed. So the human Dow Jones in your craft, in your business, is alive and well. And I think you got to think, and I heard some great commentary up here out of the panel, you've really got to manage your career. You got to think about, how do I want to get there and put myself in the right position, know that what the experiences I'm having, make darn sure they're applicable to my end game. And if you do a good job of that, and as I'm going to talk a little later, you won't be applying for many jobs because you'll get recruited to jobs. It's a big difference. It's a vastly different. And so the human Dow Jones, at least the point I want to make for for the conversation tonight is it's clearly changed. Our business was horizontal from smaller to larger. Those days are over. It's now get to the silo and pay your dues, pick a good silo, a place where you can enjoy some upward mobility, a place where people are promoting the people within their shop, so to speak, of people that are going to provide development and career opportunities for you to kind of grow. I kept hearing the word grow down here earlier. I mean, all of those things make you a real calculated decision to put yourself in play at the right place, because it's a vertical business. It's absolutely a vertical business. Focus. As I think about all of these things, I have to tell you a quick story. And I think before I do that, let me just say, I've read probably everything you've read. You know, I think I have. I use Good to Great in my class. I use Built to Last. I love all of that. And I love all the, if you take everything that's been written about leadership, let me just say this, that you can kind of cross-reference it and synthesize it, so to speak. And you know, you can boil it down to about 4 things. Now, the syntax may be different, but really what we're saying about great leaders, people that really know how to lead people, people that are successful leaders, they really kind of have 4 characteristics. What are they? I mean, again, different syntax for different folks, but largely we're saying the same thing, different semantics. People are very empathetic. They know where people's buttons are. They know how to drive people. They know how to read people. Secondly, they're very task-oriented, right? I mean, that's kind of what we read. Good to Great, Built to Last, anything else that's been written. They're very flexible, adaptable, situational. And lastly, they're pretty intense and they're pretty passionate. That's kind of what we read. That's what's in the literature. And we kind of believe that. I think for good reason we believe that. I've kind of, in recent years, I've really started to hang my hat on this thing called focus. So there probably should be those 4 characteristics and then maybe this 5th. And I don't know where this 5th fits in. And I don't know if those are in rank order. Empathy, task orientation, flexibility, adaptability, situational leadership, and then lastly, passion or intensity. But focus needs to be in there somewhere. And so this is kind of like your, you know, the conversation with your parent or maybe your grandparent at this point, thinking of me. But I can tell you that, you know, the older I get, the more I've become a believer of the fact that you have to focus. Because you can do a whole bunch of things mediocre, but you can only do a smaller grouping of things really, really well. So here's my point, my little story. And I'm going to take this to the next slide. I can remember in 1972 being a business teacher and coaching. I was trading cross-facing stores with my friend Nick here, coming back down from the airport. I was the track coach, the JV football coach. I was 22 years old. The JV football coach, and I was an assistant wrestling coach, because I didn't have a track assistant and the wrestling coach didn't have a wrestling assistant, so I assisted him and he assisted me. Different world. Okay, and so I rolled around in the room for 4 years. And then, of course, I said at like 24, I became the athletics director because I had a telephone in my room, because I was getting kids as I was teaching business, those after school hour jobs. And with all of that, I can just tell you that those were amazing, just amazing experiences, just really amazing experiences. And so, but you, as a young kid, just out of school, thrown into that environment with all those responsibilities, you had to emulate somebody. And so very quickly, the principal of a high school became my mentor, my hero. And he was an All-American. He was an All-American, actually, a football player at Michigan State. And he was, I thought this guy hung the moon. He was incredible. Because as a young school teacher, he would break down the lunch tables with the custodial staff at noon. And if a light bulb went out, he got that step ladder, and he's the first guy up there changing a light bulb. On Sunday, I'd go by the school, and he's out there with his hedge clipper. And we had the best look in high school. He was awesome. There was no job he wouldn't do. And then I was there probably in year 3 or year 4 and realized we kind of had the lowest test scores in the state. No one evaluated instruction. We had no curriculum. And so he was absolutely enamored with doing economics of a long time ago, the $5 an hour job, and nobody was doing the $25 an hour job. And I've taken that with me all these years later. There's so many things, a sport administrator, back to the campus, my role on a campus, I love going to practice. But I promise you, if I go to practice all day, we're not negotiating or renegotiating contracts. You know, we're not spending the time doing searches like we should be. We're not raising money. We're not doing the corporate activity.